I think the biggest barrier right now is not only with the ground searches and, because the institutions are built within towns or cities or even in communities, that there's development that has occurred.
One of our barriers is access to land. When land is privately held, we find that private landowner rights supersede the rights of Indigenous people to protect their sacred sites, including the cemeteries of Indigenous children.
Too many people have the notion that, oh, all they're doing is going in and they're going to be digging up graves. No. That's not what this is about, right? Part of it is, wanting to find out if there are anomalies in your community, but as well for us is to preserve. And, that knowledge, those experiences, stories that the survivors are willing to share. And it's our history, it's our community. One of the main questions asked is, do you dig up any land or, if there's possible anomalies? Because the technicians who are doing the ground search use that scientific terminology. So, but there is no digging up, so we tell individuals, it's just ground search, radar search.
I think some of the most common questions that I've heard from community is, how do we even get started? That because there is so many different layers of expertise, there are so many different places that you could start. This, of course, is all guided by provincial and federal funding mandates. In a sense, there is a clock on this work that, we're working within a certain time frame. And I think that, these are the right questions to be asking. Who can help us? What kind of resources are there that we can draw upon?
There are more options other than ground penetrating radar. There's other techniques that look below the surface. There's other techniques that look at the surface from the ground and from the air. There's huge records everywhere that show thousands of children died. What we're trying to do is find the specific locations where they might have been laid to rest, where they might have been buried, where their bodies might have been disposed of in other kinds of ways. We're trying to find specific locations and help provide additional evidence to what communities already know. Not every inch of a residential school landscape necessarily needs to be searched with ground penetrating radar. It might need to be searched, but because of the slowness of the process of ground penetrating radar, we need to look at other technologies and options. My team, which has a ground penetrating radar unit that we push along the ground, can cover an acre in a week. We're looking at 600 acres sometimes. So if you multiply that, 600 weeks, we don't have that kind of time. So we're really looking at a series of reflections from the ground that we then try to make sense of. And we don't see bones, we don't see bodies, we don't even really see coffins, except for in really good circumstances. What we see are pits. And if the pit looks like it could be a grave, it's the right shape, it's the right size, it's the right depth, then we mark that as, okay, this could be a potential grave. I think there's a misconception that we can determine that, one, it's a grave, and two, that whether it's a child or an adult, and that we can provide that kind of information. But the reality is that we can't. And it's not like we're not using the best technology. We are. It's just the technology is limited in what it can actually provide for us. The emphasis on ground penetrating radar has sometimes meant that communities have not spent as much time as they could learning what's possible in the archive. The answers that communities seek, many of them are there in the archives. How many children can we track that died? What are their names? To whom are they related? Some of that really can be found in those records if they can be made accessible in a way that ground penetrating radar will never give them those same results. So I really think that has to go hand in hand with any kind of ground searching, and the ground searching has to be informed by survivor and community knowledge and by archival knowledge. Where do we need to look can often be directed in part by those records.